Every journey of growth begins not with ambition, but with honesty, not with confidence, but with clarity. There are truths you avoid, truths you postpone, truths you bury beneath distractions, not because you are weak, but because they are difficult to face. But the truth has a special power. Once you speak it to yourself, once you stop running from it, once you allow it to guide you, your life becomes aligned. Your decisions become sharper. Your spirit becomes lighter. Today, let us explore 7 truths. Not the ones you want to hear, but the ones you need to tell yourself if you want your life to evolve. Let us begin slowly with awareness. First truth is, I am responsible for the quality of my life. You can blame circumstances. You can blame people. You can blame the past. But none of that changes your future. Your life moves in the direction of your habits, not your excuses. The moment you admit that responsibility rests with you, you stop waiting for things to change. You begin changing yourself. It is not easy to say this, but it is the first doorway to personal freedom. Second truth is the mirror of self-awareness. There is a moment in every person's life when the noise of the world becomes unbearable, not because it is loud, but because it keeps distracting you from the truth you are avoiding. Self-awareness is the most difficult mirror to stand before because it does not lie. It does not soften the edges of your mistakes, and it does not protect your pride. When you dare to look directly into that mirror, you begin to notice the subtle patterns in your behavior, the excuses that have grown comfortable, the habits that silently drain your strength, the fears that you pretend not to feel. This awareness is uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, yet it is the only doorway through which transformation can enter. Without it, you walk in circles, repeating the same lessons life keeps trying to teach you. Understanding the weight of your choices. Your life is shaped not by fate, but by the choices you make every day. Small decisions that accumulate over months, shaping your character, your direction, and your destiny. When you admit this truth to yourself, the excuses begin to fall away. You no longer blame circumstances, people, or luck for the results you see. Instead, you begin to examine your choices like a disciplined guardian, asking yourself, is this action aligned with who I want to become? This self-examination may feel heavy, but it is empowering. When you understand that your choices carry weight, you also realize you have the power to redirect your path at any moment. Life becomes less about reacting and more about consciously shaping your future. The inner conflict you can't ignore. Inside every person lives a quiet conflict, a battle between who you are and who you know you could be. Most people feel this tension, but avoid confronting it because it exposes their weaknesses, doubts, and insecurities. Yet ignoring the conflict does not silence it. It only makes it grow stronger. When you finally acknowledge this inner struggle, something profound happens. You stop running from yourself. You begin to listen to the voice that has been whispering for years, urging you to let go of certain habits, to rise above certain limitations, and to break through certain fears. This moment of honesty does not instantly solve the conflict, but it becomes the first step toward victory over it. The discipline of taking responsibility, true growth, begins when you take responsibility for your life not selectively, not partially, but fully. Many people avoid this truth because responsibility feels like a burden. But what they forget is that responsibility also gives you control. When you admit to yourself that your current condition is the result of your past actions, you simultaneously acknowledge that your future will be shaped by the actions you choose now. This simple yet powerful realization turns responsibility into a form of freedom. It becomes a discipline that strengthens your character, sharpens your focus, and forces you to rise above your own limitations. Responsibility is not a punishment. It is the foundation of transformation, facing the version of yourself you fear, becoming one of the hardest truths to admit is that you already know the version of yourself you fear becoming. The one who wastes time, gives up easily, hides behind excuses, or avoids the difficult work. This image is uncomfortable, but acknowledging it is necessary. It serves as a warning. If you continue your current path, this is where it leads. When you confront this truth, your motivation shifts from desire to necessity. You no longer pursue growth because it sounds inspiring. You pursue it because the alternative is unacceptable. This clarity creates urgency, discipline, and inner strength. When you face your darker potential, you awaken your brighter one. Third truth is the hidden cost of avoiding the truth. There are truths you keep pushing aside because you think avoiding them protects you from discomfort. But what you fail to see is that avoidance has a price. One you pay silently every day. The longer you hide from what needs to be acknowledged, the heavier the burden becomes. It drains your energy, weakens your clarity, and creates a quiet tension inside your mind. This tension is not caused by life itself, but by your refusal to face life honestly. When you finally recognize that avoidance does not delay pain, but multiplies it, you begin to understand why growth demands honesty. Only by confronting the truth can you release the weight you've been carrying, the battle between comfort and correctness. Deep inside, you always know when something is not right. Your habits, your relationships, your routines, your choices. But acknowledging that truth would require change, and change demands discomfort. So you choose comfort over correctness, if even though you know comfort is the slowest form of self-sabotage. The battle between what feels easy and what is genuinely good for you continues quietly in the background of your life. When you stop pretending and admit that a comfortable life is not the same as a meaningful life, the conflict becomes clear. The truth may be sharp, but it cuts away the illusions that hold you back. The fear of seeing yourself clearly. One of the deepest fears people carry is the fear of seeing themselves without filters. When you look at yourself clearly, you are forced to acknowledge your weaknesses, your laziness, your lack of discipline, the goals you abandoned, and the potential you wasted. This honesty can feel harsh, almost painful. But the irony is this: seeing yourself clearly is not a punishment. It is an awakening. It shows you where you truly stand, so you can determine where you must go next. Without this clarity, you keep chasing shadows, thinking you are progressing when you are only running in place. True self-awareness begins the moment you stop hiding from your own reflection. The courage to admit what isn't working. Every person reaches a point where something in their life stops working. A mindset, a habit, a relationship, a routine. But instead of admitting it, you tell yourself, it's fine, even when it clearly isn't. You hold on to it because it feels familiar, even if it is slowly destroying your confidence or stability. The courage to admit that something is no longer serving you is the beginning of inner strength. When you finally say, this isn't working, you reclaim your power to change it. You take back control of your life from the illusions you allowed to grow. Honesty becomes a doorway to liberation. The liberation found in brutal honesty. The truth you avoid is often the exact truth that would set you free. There is a profound liberation that comes when you stop lying to yourself, when you admit your fears, confess your mistakes, acknowledge your weaknesses, and confront your doubts. This honesty does not weaken you, it rebuilds you. It clears the fog in your mind and sharpens your sense of direction. The moment you speak the truth to yourself, the inner chaos begins to quiet down. You finally stop running and begin walking with purpose. Brutal honesty is not the end of comfort. It is the beginning of clarity, discipline, and peace. Fourth truth is the mind as the source of stress. Most of the suffering you experience is not caused by life itself, but by the stories your mind creates. You carry invisible weights, reliving past mistakes, imagining future failures, and replaying imagined criticisms. Stress is not an external force. It is an internal creation. Every worry, every irritation, every tension is produced by thoughts that run unchecked. When you admit this truth to yourself, you step out of the illusion that life is against you. You begin to understand that the world is neutral. It is your mind that interprets it as heavy or hostile. Recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming calm and focus. The habit of overthinking. Overthinking is a silent thief that robs your energy before the day has even begun. You anticipate scenarios that may never happen, dissect conversations that have passed, and imagine judgments that do not exist. Your mind becomes a battlefield where you fight enemies that are only projections of fear. The truth is uncomfortable to admit. Most of the chaos you feel is self-created. But admitting it is liberating. It allows you to pause and ask yourself, which thoughts deserve my attention? Which thoughts deserve my energy? Learning to discern is not easy, but it is necessary. Clarity comes not from eliminating thoughts, but from choosing which ones shape your life. The illusion of external pressure. Many people blame deadlines, circumstances, or other people for their stress. But external pressures are only significant if you allow them to be. The moment you acknowledge that most stress arises internally, you take control. You realize that you can approach the same challenges with a calm mind, a steady heart, and a clearer perspective. Life does not become easier, but your relationship with it changes. Challenges no longer feel like crushing weights, they become manageable, even instructive. The truth is simple yet profound. The mind determines the quality of your experience, not the outside world. Fifth truth is the reality of habits. The life you lead is not a product of chance. It is a reflection of your habits. Every day you make choices, small, seemingly insignificant ones, that compound over time to shape your health, your mindset, and your future. Yet most people refuse to admit this truth because habits are invisible in the moment. and the effects are slow to appear. You continue repeating patterns that no longer serve you, convincing yourself that progress is external, when in fact it begins with what you do consistently. Accepting the power of habits is uncomfortable, but it is the key to any meaningful change. The consequence of inaction, dreams and goals without action remain illusions. You may have the clearest vision of what you want, but if you do not act, it will never manifest. This is a truth most people avoid because action requires effort, sacrifice, and the courage to face failure. Inaction creates a quiet, creeping dissatisfaction that no external success can erase. Admitting this truth forces you to confront your procrastination, excuses, and avoidance. It reminds you that every day you delay growth, you are shaping a life that is smaller than your potential. The subtle erosion of time. Time passes relentlessly, indifferent to your intentions. Each day you postpone building better habits. You allow your potential to erode silently. This erosion is not dramatic. It is invisible, but it is relentless. The cumulative effect of small, ignored actions shapes the life you will have in 5, 10, or 20 years. Recognizing this truth is uncomfortable because it makes the stakes of inaction real. It forces you to see that the ordinary decisions of today are the extraordinary results of tomorrow. Every moment matters, and habits are the bridge between the present and the life you desire. Discipline as the engine of transformation. Habits do not build themselves. They require discipline. Discipline is not motivation. It is a commitment to act consistently, even when energy, mood, or inspiration wanes. Each morning, admitting the truth of your habits compels you to act intentionally, to choose the tasks that matter, to practice the skills that build mastery, and to maintain routines that shape character. Discipline is the silent engine behind transformation. Without it, knowledge, vision, and ambition remain powerless. With it, even small efforts compound into extraordinary change. The liberation of ownership. Admitting the truth about your habits ultimately liberates you. Once you recognize that your choices, no matter how small, create your life, you reclaim power. You are no longer a passive participant in your own story. You see that progress is in your hands, that change is achievable, and that the life you want is built one deliberate action at a time. Habits are not constraints, they are tools. The moment you own them, you begin to steer your life with clarity, purpose, and confidence. Mastery of your habits becomes mastery of yourself. Sixth truth is the weight of your energy. Your energy is your most valuable asset. Yet most people spend it carelessly, allowing others to drain it and circumstances to scatter it. Every thought, conversation, and action draws from it, whether you are conscious of it or not. When you admit to yourself that your energy is limited and precious, you begin to see life differently. You start protecting it, directing it, and investing it where it matters most. This awareness is not about being selfish, it is about survival. Without this recognition, your mind becomes cluttered, your heart exhausted, and your purpose diluted. The flow of attention, energy follows attention. Wherever you focus, you give your strength. Most people give their energy to distractions, to negativity, to comparison, and to tasks that bring no long-term benefit. The truth is uncomfortable because it forces you to see where you are misallocating your life force. By admitting this, you gain the ability to redirect attention intentionally. You learn to focus on what fuels your growth, nurtures your clarity, and aligns with your goals. Mastering where your attention flows is the first step toward mastering your energy. The danger of energy drainers: not all influences deserve access to your inner world. Some people, environments, and situations drain your strength without providing any nourishment in return. Most avoid admitting this because it feels confrontational or uncomfortable to set boundaries. But protecting your energy requires honesty about who and what you allow into your life and how you engage with it. Setting these boundaries is not arrogance, it is wisdom. It ensures that your efforts, thoughts, and emotions are reserved for what truly matters and for what contributes to your evolution rather than diminishes it. The discipline of intentional energy use. Energy alone is not enough. It must be directed. Intentional use of energy is a discipline, one that requires awareness, patience, and repeated practice. It means pausing before reacting, choosing focus over distraction, and investing in actions that yield growth, clarity, and resilience. Each day, by acknowledging this truth, you build a muscle of conscious control over your energy. This discipline protects you from exhaustion, heightens your productivity, and deepens your sense of purpose. Energy becomes a tool instead of a burden. The liberation in energy ownership. When you finally accept that your energy is yours alone to steward, a profound freedom emerges. You stop giving it away unconsciously, stop being pulled by the noise of others, and begin living with intention. Life becomes less chaotic and more deliberate. You recognize that your influence is strongest when focused, your clarity sharpest when protected, and your results greatest when your energy is aligned with purpose. Owning your energy is not just a choice. It is an act of self-respect and self-mastery. This truth, once embraced, becomes a foundation for every decision, every action, and every moment of your day. Seventh truth is the foundation of gratitude. Gratitude is more than a feeling. It is the foundation of a stable, resilient mind. Most people think of gratitude as a response to comfort or success, but true gratitude exists even when life is difficult. When you admit this truth to yourself, you begin to see that appreciation is not dependent on circumstances. It is a deliberate choice, a lens through which you perceive the world. Each morning, when you recognize even the smallest blessings, you root yourself in reality rather than fantasy. This grounding creates a quiet strength that cannot be shaken by external chaos or challenges. Gratitude becomes the soil in which patience, clarity, and purpose take root. The shift from scarcity to abundance. Most of the unhappiness people carry arises from focusing on what is missing rather than what is present. You look at your life and see gaps, failures, and unmet desires, convincing yourself that happiness is elsewhere. The truth is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront your own perception of scarcity. Yet admitting this allows a profound shift. Suddenly, the simple elements of your life, your breath, your health, your opportunities, become sources of abundance. Gratitude transforms scarcity into fullness, fear into confidence, and longing into contentment. It is not the external conditions that change, but the way you experience them.